Hey everyone, I want to talk with you about mission, vision, and values, and then also give you a little bit of information about governance and how that looks for nonprofits, and particularly how that looks here at the Center for Children and Families. We'll start with mission. And for me, this is a central thing for any nonprofit agency, is to have a clearly defined mission. What a mission is it really defines the purpose of the organization, why we exist, why are we here as an organization. And so for us here at the Center for Children and Families, our mission is to promote safe, healthy environments for children and families. And we do that through advocacy, counseling, education, and prevention. And here's a little tip for you. Those last four things are in alphabetical order: advocacy, counseling, education, and prevention, alphabetical order. If you ever have trouble kind of remembering that as you write that down. But that is our mission as an agency, and that dictates who we are as far as why we're here. We're here to promote safe, healthy environments. And then how we do that. And it really defines that. I love that about our mission. Not all mission statements do that. They don't all define the ways in which someone goes about doing that or their organization goes about doing their mission. But ours really does clearly define those four types of services that we provide in the community. And so what that'll do for you is it does a couple of things. It focuses your programs and services, what you go after, what you provide in the community. It'll help with your energy, time, decision-making, policies. Everything should be helping you achieve that mission. And that is really what it's supposed to do. And so to give you an example, one time I was called about an opportunity, a really great opportunity to provide services to adults that were in prison. Very needed, very admirable service to be provided in the community. But if you think about what our mission is and what it says about what we do, it fell just outside of that for us in terms of we weren't looking at kids and creating safe, healthy environments for kids and families. It's a really great service, really great opportunity, but not why the Center for Children and Families is here and what our purpose is. So that's what a mission is. And so really, when you start to think about defining a mission for an organization, it should be clear, it should be concise, and it should be to the point. It also should be inspiring. It should really speak to that. Now, shifting into vision, vision is really about that future-oriented perspective. What do we hope to achieve? What are we going for in terms of impact in that way? And that really is something that I'm excited about as well for the center. Now, our vision is to provide the best possible service to the kids that need it the most. That's the first part of it. And it really plays off of what our mission is. It sort of is a natural linkage with our mission to the vision that we want. We want to provide the best possible service to those that need it the most. But we don't stop there with our vision. Our vision statement is twofold. So it says, and to provide a life-giving workplace so that people can live out their personal mission. And so for us, we want to create a place that people can feel welcome, they can feel poured into, they can really follow their life's passion. Because we know that you don't join up with a nonprofit like the Center for Children and Families just because it's a job. You join up because you want to make a difference in the community. You want to have an impact. You want to live out your purpose. So we want to be a place where you can do that. And that is the reason that that's a part of it. But it's also very savvy in terms of business perspective as well, because the work that we do is very hard. And so in order to sustain the people so that we can sustain the work and the impact in the community, we need to be providing a life-giving workplace. And so it has an intentionality and a purpose so that we can achieve our mission as well. So it's not just to have a fun place to work, it's to have a fun place to work so that we can carry out that mission to provide safe, healthy environments for kids and families. So all starts to sort of play in place, right? And make sense. The other part of sort of the core of an organization is the values that an organization has. And so to give you a little bit of history around our values, when Cindy Murray, who was one of the first CEOs of the company, it was very small, just a CASA program. It was really just her and a half-time employee. But there was some grant funding for a consultant. So a consultant came in to help her sort of organize the business and the organization. And one of the things the consultant said was that she needed to develop core values. And she said, it's only me here. How can I develop core values for an organization that's just me? And the consultant said, well, they have to come from you. Who are you? Who do you want to be? And so that first set of core values that the agency had really were those core values that Cindy wanted to possess for herself as she conducted the business of the agency. Now, years later, we went through a revamp of the organization and we rewrote those core values. And it took about a year-long process with our leadership team at the time, really pouring into deciding who it was that we want to be. And so that's where you get the 7 core values that we have now, which that acronym is CHRISTY. And so that kind of helps you remember community, respect, integrity, service, teamwork, excellence, and empowerment as well. So those are our core values, and those are the things that we landed on. And each one of those is significant in terms of who we want to be and how we want to interact with each other. So those are guiding posts for us in terms of how we interact with other staff members, how we interact with our clients, how we interact with our collaterals as well. So it really does impact everything that we do as an agency. If you think about our desire to continue to be accountable and transparent, that comes from integrity and excellence. Those ideas about making sure that we're doing our very best and we want to be held accountable to that. And we want to hold each other accountable to that. The ideas around our huddle and some of the fun things that we do to create community so that we can share our lives together and pour into one another so that we can be a better team and work together. A lot of the things that we do here in an agency are all based on team efforts. Even our counseling programs that are really set aside, an individual counselor has their own caseload, but they're coming together weekly most of the time to connect with other people, other like-minded folks that are doing that work as well, to do supervision or consultation. And that really is about carrying out that core value of teamwork. And so you should see them all over. They're not just words that should be on a wall somewhere that you never really look at. For us, we want them to be a part of our evaluation process. We want them to be a part of how we talk about the work that we do as well. We want to keep that fresh and at the forefront of our minds because they really are things to aspire to. Now, what we have to realize as leaders is that we're not always going to live up to those core values as individuals. There are going to be times where I'm going to have an off day, where I'm going to make mistakes. There has to be enough flexibility in us to realize that that's going to happen. But those core values are things that we continually aspire to. So when we find ourselves coming up short in that, we continue to strive forward and aspire to. And what happens when you have a collective group of people that are aspiring to those core values, you get an organization that exudes them. And that is what happens when the center is at its best in a way in which we're able to impact the community. So that's what I call the core of any organization. It's mission, its vision, and its values. And the center's got a long history with that. We have a great mission statement that's very clear. It helps guide us in terms of who we want to be. A little bit of history around that, just for FYI. Our mission statement hasn't always been what it is today. When we were first a CASA program starting out, we used the language of to promote safe, permanent homes for children, and particularly foster kids. And so we, back in 2004, it was a name change for the organization and a broadening of the types of services that we provided. And so it sort of prompted a revision of that mission statement. And so that's when that got adjusted to include counseling services, educational services, preventive services. That's when we began our CAC. A lot of those things happened around that same time. So really cool bits of history along the way as well and how those things have developed. And that to me is a critical piece for any organization to have those core elements in place. If you don't have those as an organization, then you're likely going to have what's called mission drift. You're going to have a lack of clarity on where you're headed. It's going to be much more difficult to get decisions about what programs or services or things you want to do. Those really are the guiding post for you. So very, very important to have those in place before you really get started with anything else. Now, let's talk about governance. I hope you all know that the Center for Children and Families is a nonprofit organization, a 501(c)(3), and as part of that structure, we have to have a board of directors. So the center is structured to where we have 12 seats, up to 12. I think the minimum is 7, but the maximum is 12. We usually keep somewhere between 10 and 12 board members on our board at any time. They are not paid. They are volunteer board members. They should be representative of different groups within the community. And so for us, we look in terms of skill sets and a matrix that looks at what is needed to add to our board and what can be helpful in terms of guiding our organization. So we have physicians, we have attorneys, we have CPAs, we have business owners, we have higher education folks, we have a lot of different people that are coming from different sectors. We've had ministers, we've had people in public service, a lot of different types of people that can help support the mission. And what's needed with the board can change based on the life of an organization. So who makes up that board? So one of the things for us is that of those 12 board members that we have officers. So there's a president that's elected. There's a vice president, a secretary and treasurer. For us, our bylaws state that the secretary and treasurer can be held by one person. So right now we have 3 executive officers. We have Dr. Eason, who is our board president. We have Dennis Gardner, who is our vice president, and then Wendy Giovingo, who is serving in that secretary treasurer role as the 3rd officer for our board of directors. Now, sometimes people ask, okay, if it's a volunteer thing, how long are the terms? And so for us as an agency in our bylaws, it states that board members will serve terms of 4 years. So that seems like a long time, but we're such a complex organization that it takes a lot of time for people to really learn and understand our agency. And so board members can serve terms of 4 years, and they can serve 2 consecutive terms, meaning they can serve 4 years and then stay with us and serve another 4 years. And that really has been the trend with our board of directors. Many of our board of directors choose to stay with us an additional 4 years. And so they have that option, but a lot of them stay with us for a full 8 years. Now, after that 8 years, they have to roll off of the board. And then 1 to 2 years later, they can come back on the board if they're nominated and elected to do so. Now, our board of directors, it takes nominations usually once a year, but any new board member has to be elected via vote of the current board. And so that is how you become a board member at the Center for Children and Families. Now, different organizations will have different processes, but generally the current board of directors will take a nomination, will vet that person, decide whether or not they would be a good contributor to the organization as a board member, and then vote yay or nay, whether or not to have that person come on the board. So we've got a fantastic board of directors right now. And the role of a board, and I think this is something that's important to understand, is in what's called governance. They are not tasked with, in our organization, day-to-day operations. That really is the role of the executives of the agency, with monitoring and making sure that we're operating on the day in and day out. The board is geared towards policy review. They're geared towards reviewing the performance of the executive director or CEO, and they're looking at financial security and then public awareness and that sort of thing. So a typical board agenda for us, if we are sort of having a typical board of directors meeting, we'll start with a review of minutes from the last meeting. We'll go into any reports, such as financial reports. So they're looking at financials every time they meet. They're wanting to see how the center is doing on that front, how healthy we are. They have to vote to approve those financials each board meeting. We look at operational data, which pulls in how are we doing with our programs, how many kids have we seen and served, how many are discharging successfully. So they're looking at program data that lets them know whether or not we're able to achieve that mission that we want to achieve. We get into specific program updates. So if there's a specific thing like our CAC was fully accredited and I wanted to make sure that that was highlighted, or we had a grant renew with CASA. We got that full grant for our full ask for our CASA program. Those kinds of things are updated. If we've got new key staff members, such as adding a new nurse practitioner, those kinds of things. The board wants to know those milestone specifics for our programs, and I try to keep them informed about those things. They look at fundraising and public awareness events that may be going on. They do that at just about every board meeting. And then in terms of board business, they are reviewing any policies, any board resolutions. So there are times where we're applying for a grant, but that funder requires that the board state that we have authorization to apply. And so the board will develop a resolution and vote on that resolution that would allow me or someone else in the agency to apply for a grant on behalf of the center. So lots of things like that. That's kind of the typical flow of a board of directors meeting. And so if you think about it in terms of governance, what the role of a board is to look at our policy, to review our sustainability in terms of our finances. They want to overall know what our program outcomes and how we're doing with that. And they're wanting to evaluate that executive director or the CEO to make sure that they are doing their job well. And so that is the typical thing that they do. There's other sort of things that come along the way, such as reviewing independent audits, if there are like succession planning and that sort of thing. For sustainability, they'll do all those sorts of things. But board of directors are super key to an organization. I know sometimes we don't see them very often because they're coming in as volunteers, once a month or every other month, depending on the meeting schedule. And so you don't see them as much, but very important advocates for our agency. One of our board members right now, Wendy Giovingo, is actually responsible for helping start this agency. She's an attorney, and she was the one, and along with a couple of other folks, that really saw that there was a need to advocate for kids that were involved in foster care. They knew about this program called CASA, and they brought it to this area. They were the ones that applied for that Junior League grant. Wendy is actually the one that penned our articles of incorporation and our bylaws, and she has been a huge part of supporting our agency for a lot of years. Beautiful heart for the work and for the kids in our area. And her story is not uncommon with our other board members as well. They have tremendous heart for what we do and want to be there to support us. So that's a little bit about governance, as well as obviously a lot of other things to kind of think through in terms of oversight and that sort of thing, in terms of regulations and all of that. But that's a brief introduction to governance, and more specifically how our board of directors here at the Center for Children and Families works as well. So I hope you are excited about the leadership mentoring and what you'll learn through this program. I know that I am excited for you. A lot of the material that you will cover will be things that you can apply as you grow and develop as a leader. So hope you have a great rest of the time with this training.